to the Shades of Entrepreneurship, where we interview entrepreneurs to inspire the future entrepreneur. I'll be your host, Mr. Gabriel Flores. So grab a drink, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. My next guest creates innovative golf clubs made from superior materials tested in the diverse conditions of the Pacific Northwest to perform in all environments for golfers of all levels. Please welcome the co-founder of Clinch Golf, Jason DelSaldato. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shades of Entrepreneurship. This is your host, Mr. Gabriel Flores. Today, I'm here with Jason DelSaldato from here in beautiful Portland, Oregon, and Clinch Golf. Jason, how are we doing?
Doing well. How are you doing, Gabriel?
I'm excited about this one because, folks, we're talking about one of my favorite sports that I love to yell at more than anything, golf. But before we get into all things golf, Jason, go ahead and introduce yourself. Who is Jason DelSaldato?
Jason DelSaldato is a lover of all things product. I've been living in Portland for about 15, 16 years. Worked for Nike for a while. And then when COVID hit, left and met my partner, Matt. And we started Clinch Golf based on basically taking the things that I had done at Nike for so many years, which is trying to solve the problems of an athlete or a consumer, and taking that and putting that through the lens of golf gloves.
Love it. Now, folks, I got to apologize real quick. Jason DelSaldato. I forgot. I just did the Del Sol because we're talking about Del Sol earlier. We're talking about the Nikes and all sorts of fun stuff. So I apologize for that.
No worries.
I'm really excited. So tell me, first let's talk about Clinch Golf, and then we'll take a step back and we'll kind of talk about how we got here.
Sure. Yeah, Clinch Golf. We've been around 2 years. We are an alternative to leather golf clubs. So we're basically we were founded upon the belief that we could make a glove out of a better material than leather. There are things, if you are, obviously sounds like you are an avid golfer, and I have been, as well as my partner has been, for many, many years. And there weren't really a lot of innovations on golf gloves, though there have been in other equipment in golf. Balls have been innovated on, bags, shoes. People are wearing sneakers and Jordans, and like that. Everything's been innovated on. The clothing, clubs, of course. But really, the leather that gloves are made of basically came from FootJoy back in the day as the interior of the shoes. And the interior leather, the white leather that was inside the golf shoes. They said, well, why don't you try to make this? That's where the golf glove came from, was that material. And that's what it is still to this day. So yes, there are other brands out there making alternative golf gloves. And we just felt like we could do it in a little bit more meaningful way by innovating, or I call them innovations, little things on the golf glove that had not been done before. So when it comes to durability, we added a TPU screen print on the inside of the glove to not only hold the glove to your palm, but also reinforce that area in case that was an issue, a problem of the glove. We made it out of a synthetic suede material. We call it crushed groove fabric, and that works better, kind of like a rain glove, when it gets a little bit of moisture on it. So obviously, living where we live in the Pacific Northwest, there's always a possibility of moisture in your game. But what we've found is that a lot of people across the country, specifically in the states where it's hotter, are having a lot of success with our gloves because of the heat, the humidity, the sweat. And then as we work through our glove, there's 4-way stretch for better fit. The back of the hand is a more porous material. So when you swing through with that lead hand, air goes into the glove to help cool it off.
Oh, interesting.
The average golfer now takes their glove off at least 18 times a round because most people take their glove on and off before they putt.
Yep.
A lot of the, as you go up in, I think, skill level, a lot of people take their gloves off after every shot. I don't tend to do that. But we felt like making it easier to take on and off, number one. Leather gloves, when they get hot and sticky, they stick to your hands. So you're pulling on the tips of the fingers. Leather material, when it stretches, does not rebound. So you'll notice after a round or two, after you pull the fingers tips, you're having to do this a lot to try to get it back on your hand. Don't even get me started on how it looks when you take it out of your bag after it's been sitting there for about 2 weeks after that round. It's all crumpled up
Oh yeah.
and like a piece of beef jerky, we like to say.
Yeah, it does.
Our material rebounds back to its original shape and will come out of your bag looking exactly like this for as many rounds as you possibly need. So that's one of the things, so we try to build as much into a golf glove, knowing that this was going to be a niche product. A lot of people are very, very loyal, I want to say, when it comes to um, golf equipment. When you find something that you like, golfers tend to stick with that because that's something obviously that's your touch point to the club. That's, the glove.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to build all of these things in and really bring something new to the marketplace. We've been around for about 2 years. We've seen steady growth. It's just my partner and I, we run a very, very, tight, wear a lot of hats situation when it comes to a startup. But we've seen some traction. Our goal was to start DTC, .com, build out from Portland. So we've been in multiple locations in the Portland area in physical retail. Some places like Wildwood Golf Course gave us a shot from day one, and we're always refilling there. Ryan, who helps run that out there, he really does a good job of working with local golf companies to give them a shot, and it's been very successful out there. And then we're going to look to build out as we start to get bigger down the road and try to get to more green grass accounts across the country. But right now, I think the direct to consumer model is working very well for us, and we're looking forward to continuing to grow.
Yeah, folks, I gotta tell you, everything Jason just mentioned is the exact thing that happens. You those leather gloves, man. I was wondering. Now, like, it's kind of now that you started to talk about it, I'm like, oh no crap, it makes sense. Like every time I take off the gloves, I'm sweating all the time, so I pick it up, and it's so hard to take off because it's all moisture and leather and wetness don't really match very well. And then, as you mentioned, you don't go golf for a couple of weeks, and you come back, and that thing it's beef jerky. It is all crunched up, and it's hard, and you're trying to put your fingers back into it, and it's never fun. And I'm one of those people. In fact, I'm reading the book, Fix It Yourself. The golf book. And one of the things that, because I'm constantly ripping the inside of my glove, and I'm realizing it's because I'm holding that dang thing a little too hard, and so, like, learning all these little things. And one of the things you mentioned was the innovation piece. It really is. I haven't, in fact, folks, if you go check out the shadesofE.com, formerly interviewed Mr. Forsey from Painter Golf, they're creating some innovation. But again, I've never heard anything about the gloves. Now let's take a step back. Why gloves? Where did you start to see the problem that, like, this needs a solution?
Yeah, so my partner reached out to me through a friend and knew that I had been in product creation for my entire career, and that was with multiple companies. I worked right out of college at Abercrombie and Fitch. Got my
Oh, you're the guy standing outside the shirt on, got a shirt on.
No. I wish. No, I went right into what they call their merchant program right out of college. I worked in stores for a little while, and that was basically my master's in product creation. You work directly with factories, designers, and really get to learn how to bring a product from inception, design, all the way through to marketplace, and then understanding how the market, works, working on sell through and everything from A to Z when it comes to product creation. I then took that to Burton Snowboards, where I was there for 8 to 10 years, and then Nike for 13. So had a very long, history and resume of working for some really great companies in product creation. So I met Matt, my partner, and he said, "Hey, I have this issue. I have this problem. I think I know how I want to solve it. Can you help me? Is this something you feel like you'd be interested in working on? And I was like, hey, listen, let's try it. Why not? I think I have some good connections within the industry. When it came to our source base, where we currently make the gloves, they also make gloves for some larger companies as well. Not only in golf, but also receiving and batting. And that's where we really tried to take inspiration from other sports, other gloves, other types of equipment, because the glove is a piece of equipment. It's not an accessory. So we were like, okay, how can we maybe look to innovate a little bit on the golf club? He then mentioned he had obviously had issues with the ripping in that palm, and he had some ideas about how he wanted to fix that. So we started, talking to some designers, talking to some local, to some of those source bases. They are based in China. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of stateside manufacturing capabilities for this kind of product.
Yep.
If there ever is, we'll definitely be looking to do that. But we went where the experts were, and that was in some of these factories that are making some of these gloves for some of the big boys in the golf marketplace. We told them our idea. We said, hey, this is what we want to do. We started, really generating some samples, wear testing. I think we did about 50 people, friends and family, other people within the Portland area. Tried the gloves for several weeks. We had a whole survey monkey thing. People were giving us feedback. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. And we really that's how it started. It was with a problem. It was like, hey, I'm ripping the glove here. What do we feel like we can do about that? Also, we deal with moisture in our game. And again, I know I mentioned Pacific Northwest. That's where we live. And there's a lot of moisture, whether it be, even if it's
Right.
not raining, you're waking up in the morning and it's dew if you're
Oh
playing
yeah.
an early morning round. But we also talked about sweat. We also talked about things like just grabbing a beverage from your cart,
Oh, good
or
point. Yeah.
condensation on anything. There's always moisture in the game, and we wanted to make sure that we were combating that in a way that made sense. So things like that was where we started with. What was the problem that Matt was experiencing? How could we solve that through product innovation? And that was something I've, again, had always done throughout my career, but specifically in those 13 years that I was at Nike, where that's what you're taught every single day, working with the athlete, finding out what's not working for them, and solving that problem through product. And that's the way we approached this glove. And that's basically how the tactile glove came to be. And that was the first thing. So again, I think I'd mentioned, we reinforced that area with
Oh
this
yeah.
like screen print. It's a sticky rubber, screen print that allows it to stick to your palm, stability in that area that's touching the club, and then also durability, so that allows that to reinforce that area. When I mentioned we took other pieces from other sports, I always had an issue with one of the other major companies where I sometimes would grab the underside when I wasn't looking, under the underside of the
Oh yeah.
Velcro,
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about.
because they had it overlaid perfectly, and you would grab it and it was the underside. And one or two times I ripped a
Yep.
brand new, or semi brand new $20-25 glove, and I was like, ugh. So we actually added a rubber
Oh,
um,
nice. Yeah.
tab, but it was like a very simple thing. We looked at every single company in the golfing glove world, and no one had done that. And it was very, very little cost in order to do that. But it gave some, if you're not looking down, it gave something to grab, instead of the possibility of ripping the underside. So things like that, things like cooling it down, again, trying to with that porous material in the back. And again, one of the major things was that we're now in a modern game. Everyone is on their phones during their rounds, their watches, or GPS things, and our material works with all screens because it's synthetic material, and it works directly with your screen. So leather does not. You have to either take it off or use your other hand, and that might be something that people aren't used to doing. So really, the innovation factor was some of the biggest drivers as we were getting into the product. But that was really the inception was, hey, we have a problem. Like, how do we solve that? And that's what we jumped in at that point.
The true story of entrepreneurship, right? There's a problem, we're going to solve it. And now, folks that are listening to audio only, this episode is actually available on YouTube. So check out the shadesofe.com, subscribe to the newsletter. We'll also have a blog post about Jason's information, have a photo of the glove. Now, Jason, one of the things you're talking about is product development. And all I'm hearing when it comes to product development is stage gate. Right? I keep on thinking stage gate. Can you talk to us about, kind of take us through the process of creating a product for individuals that are maybe unaware of the process that goes to it? Take us from the inception of the idea to the actual final creation, and what all the steps that are in between that people may not know about, because there's a lot.
There are a lot. I think if you've heard anything about Nike, if you've heard anything about any other like bigger companies, the product creation and the marketing process from inception to delivery can sometimes be, for some of these larger companies, anywhere between, and this is for an established company, anywhere between 20 to 22 to 24 months from the day that it hits marketplace, from the time that it actually got line planned, which basically means you're going to put something on a list, you're going to assign a price point to it, you're going to assign colorways to it, and you're basically going to say, I'm going to brief this product in. It could be whatever, a hat, a glove, anything. And then now we're going to start the process of trying to bring that to life. Now, with somebody as small as us, a lot of those steps do get taken out of the equation because you're not dealing with a sales force, you're not dealing with selling it into retailers, you're basically, so we cut a lot of that out. But in the beginning part of it, we had our idea. We started working with the factory. We then worked with the initial one initial design. Actually, we have multiple designs, but we ended up going with one at the start of launch because we wanted to make sure we stood for something for a little while, and then we'll bring out other options if people felt like they wanted some newness. And then really you then start to play with this, move this here, change this material. This feels a little bit heavy. How about we thin this out a little bit? We could reinforce this area a little bit, but and then working with the designers and the development team at the factory to work through also costing. We knew that we wanted to bring this product in at not a premium price point, not a cheap price point. We're not the 3 for $20 that you can get at Costco, and we're not the $30 to $40 to $50 leather Cabretta gloves that you can sometimes purchase now. We wanted to be in that really sweet spot. We also wanted to make something that was going to last. We get emails every day of people who are like, I'm still on my first glove that I bought a year ago, and I've got 2 more that I had purchased. And some might say that's not a really great business plan to make something that lasts very long, but we wanted to stand by our product from day one. We wanted to make something that people were going to come back to if they wanted. We knew that if people like the product, they'll come back. They'll tell their friends about it, and we felt like the marketplace was large enough that we could find a little sliver in this part of the industry that would allow us to make something that could last for a little while. So from inception, that first meeting with Matt to really going through that then we started getting samples. We would try them on. We would take them out to the course. We would give them to friends and family. What do you think? We would do a lot of that feedback process. We would do a lot of that product testing. Then we started to work on colorways. And that's another one of the biggest questions we get is, why don't you make a stark white glove? So I guess if you want to talk to your listeners, if they're not, we make a glove based out of a lighter gray material. And the reason being is that the synthetic suede in its stark white form looks very cheap. If you think white felt or something along those lines, that sometimes just even looking at it wrong can get very dirty. So I think that was, and we also said, hey, how do we want to stand out in the marketplace? If you go to a golf and you're part of a foursome, or if you go play in a tournament or whatever, 99% of the gloves, especially if it's during the summer, are white, because leather is white and that's what they're going to be putting out. We wanted to stand out a little bit, and we also wanted to make a product that was going to look quality. And we had gotten some initial samples in a white, and it was just like, it was not us. We wanted to be different. We want people to golf different, and we wanted to give them something like that. If you're standing on the tee box with some people, they might be going, hey, like, what is that? what is that glove? And ask questions about it. So that's why we based our initial launch of the gloves in a light gray. We did a tonal gray, which is what you have here, and then we did a bunch of different versions: black four-way stretch here, blue, green, and then that material, which is 100% polyester, and can be sublimated. So that's where we can bring in a lot of newness when it comes to prints and things like that. And I don't know if you've seen this one, but we just recently launched with a collaboration glove with Seamus Golf, which is also a Portland-based brand, to do
that's dope.
to use one of their heritage gloves, which heritage prints, which is their houndstooth, and we sublimated that onto the four-way stretch that allows us to bring newness. We also did an antique white, so this is an off-white, not a stark white.
Yeah.
And we might start to look a little bit further into these kinds of things as we move forward. But so we went through that whole process. We brought in new colors, and that's why we went away from that white. It was another color. I just got asked twice yesterday on social media, why aren't you doing white? And I have a canned response that I put out because I'm tired of typing the same thing over and over again. But it's and I get the question, but we want to be different in the marketplace. We want people to look at us as being a different glove, and that allows us to actually separate us from that. And then again, I know I've kind of a little bit off topic when you've asked for, to go through the whole process.
No, not at all.
But you go through all of these thoughts, and I think it took us 2 years from the first day that we met for a coffee to in 2020 to when we launched in 22 to really get something that we felt like was ready for the marketplace. You then have to work with your factory because we're nothing, we're like less than nothing when it comes to a large company or a large factory that's making stuff for big brands like Nikes and some other golf companies that are out there. We had to convince them that we were not going to be a flash in the pan. This wasn't going to be a one order thing, that we wanted to be around for a while, and would they work with us, at a good price on some of these smaller units. So you're working through some of that. And then we had a really great response in year one. I think we were self-funded. We didn't take any investments at all. I think, and we do all of the hats. We wear all the hats. We fulfill out of the garage here at my house. All the stock is here. I'm the one you talk to if you email. I'm the one that does all the social media. Product development, product design, all of the stuff, the other things like hats and things and towels that we have, and Matt does a lot of the other things when it comes to finance and to website and to a lot of those kinds of things. We're now doing a lot of work with influencers. We're doing some really great work there. Some people who are doing some great stuff on YouTube. You mentioned YouTube earlier. There's somebody and they have a code and they push the gloves. They believe in the gloves, and then we can get the word out a little further. So we're from day one to when we launched 2 years ago. It's been a journey, but it's been fun. Really, just trying to bring this thing to life.
Yeah, no, and again, I love this story because I think, folks, it's very important to understand this. This was 2 years in the making. Entrepreneurship, again, I'm running the podcast, I'm editing, I'm doing all the marketing, the SEO, like Jason, even though if you email info@theshades.of, you're talking to me. So I wear all the hats. And, I really love that, the heritage design too. And one of the things I was thinking that just popped in my head, like when I saw that, PDX carpet. I'm like, geez, we got to get the PDX carpet design on that bad boy. That'd be pretty cool. But one of the things you mentioned too, and actually, first and foremost, I want to give a quick shout out because you mentioned Wildwood being one of the first people that kind of came to your business and say, we'll help you guys out. So folks out in Scappoose, Oregon, check out Wildwood. Really cool 18-hole golf course. The first hole is absolutely remarkable. I mean, you can crush that drive as hard as you possibly can. You may not lose it unless you really strike it to the right. But I mean, it's really cool. One of their holes, it's like 100-yard par 3, but it's 100 freaking yards in the air. So you can't have to skyrocket. It's a really fun course. So please, if you're out in the Scappoose, Oregon area, please stop by, go check out a round of golf. Now, I really would love to talk about, because one of the things you mentioned, you have your experience at Nike and larger, Burton and all these other organizations, and then you're starting your own small business. Tell me about some of the things when you're creating a product and you're working with your developer team and designer team. Talk about some of the easy things it is versus some of the harder things it is on both industries.
Yeah, there's a lot on both sides. I think one of the easier things was that is the layers of red tape and the layers of meetings and decks that you do not have to do. I think my last role before I left Nike was very meeting heavy, very deck heavy, and you're just basically taking information from one to the other to the other to the other, and it's a long game of telephone. And it was one of those things where, loved Nike, was there for a very long time and loved that, but I loved being closer to the product process. And as you kind of get up in your roles at Nike, you get a little further away from that. And that was one of the things that just wasn't my forte. So I think one of the things that, working with Matt, hey, do you want to do this? Yes. Cool. That's all. Then we basically do it and we bring it to market. I think that's one of the biggest things that was a lot easier. It was like, hey, like, you have an idea and you can just action on it immediately. You can make the calls, send the emails out, talk to people, network, get on LinkedIn or whatever it might be, reach out, hey, whatever. It was very quick, in a way of bringing an idea to life. I think one of the harder parts is that, when you email somebody, when you've got Nike.com at the end of your email address, a lot of people get back to you super quick. When you have Gmail, or you don't know the person you're reaching out, or you're a new brand, clinchgolf.com, people aren't, as eager to take your call or to take your email. So that was one of the harder things in the beginning. We were having a hard time, it was a lot of pounding the pavement. It was a lot of reaching out, a lot of blind calls. Hey, like, and again, we're not even in a lot of the places here in Portland because, a lot of the bigger brands offer a lot more than we can when it comes to discounts for, accounts, green grass and physical retail. We also are only two people, so it's really hard to say, hey, I can get out to every one of your locations. We can't really pay a rep yet. Right. So it's like you're trying to say, hey, like, last week, Aaron, one of the manager of Wildwood out there was like, hey, we're a little low. We've got a couple of big scrambles coming up. So I had to find the time in the day to jump in the car to drive the 45 minutes, 35 minutes out there, 35 minutes back, so it's a real commitment to try to do that. So there are some things that are super hard, again, trying to find, you're doing everything yourself. How, what's the new idea I'm going to put on social media, this week? How am I going to talk about the product in a new way? How am I going to, do that in a cool way? But you don't have a lot of layers to go through, and you can just make some decisions pretty quickly. So I think on the two sides of the coin, those are the two biggest things that I've noticed. When you're doing something like this yourself, there's no training wheels either. You have to fail. One of the things I talk about all the time is you have to fail fast. Yep. And just and move on. I think that's one of the things. And one of my favorite mentors that I ever had at Nike was a woman named Carmen Main. She was amazing. She always talked about finding out really quickly what the rules are so that you can learn how to bend and break them as quickly as possible.
Oh, I like that.
I think when we first got into this, it was like everyone thought that there was like these, you have to do things this way, you have to do things that way. And we just approached it from a thing of like, okay, we're not a big company. We're going to try to do whatever we're going to try to make a great product, and we're going to try to do things differently. How can we circumnavigate like these things? How can we do this differently? And not really follow the rules, of like having a rep force and taking, investments and doing this and doing that. We really wanted to prove concept. A lot of people ask like, well, why aren't you taking investors? Why aren't you talking to, to people in the golf world, or, shopping this idea with a big company? And we're like, well, that's not really what we want to do. We want to build this,
Yep.
Prove the concept, and I have a lot of, ex coworkers and colleagues that started and are working at Oregon Sports Angels and things like that, where they look at companies based in this area in the sports world and invest in them. And I was like, and one of my mentors also hired me at Nike. He was all over there and high up. And I was like, listen, like we want to make sure we have something first. Like, we didn't know at the time, coming out, we had some really great support from friends and family throughout the industry and to get off the ground. And it was great, people buying the product and stuff. But when you started to see those same names come back for purchase too, and you start to see, I see multiple, because I fill the orders, see multiple when I click on a person's name and it's their 10th order or their 11th order, over the last 2 years, that you're now, you're one of their trusted brands. And I think when you start to see that, that's when we go, okay, hey, like, we've got something here we can stand behind. We can talk about it. We can bring newness, with the Seamus collaboration. Obviously a very, very trusted name in the golf world.
Yeah.
Been around for 12, 13 years already, making some really great stuff and having their products in some of the best golf courses in the world, not just North America, but in the world. And them trusting us as well to bring a product that they felt was quality enough and was going to stand up to what their name stands for. Our name was right next to it. So, and that's how the glove ended up, Clinch, ex Seamus, bring this to the market. So we feel really good about that. And, but yeah, I think we're super excited with where we're at. But again, it's just every day you're looking at things through a different lens, new problems to solve. We're also talking about how much you spend on social media, how much do you do this and how much do you do that. And, what kind of PR should you be doing as we enter into the holiday season? And again, and you learn that stuff as you go along. You get different names, you reach out to certain people, and you try to do the best thing with the information you have in front of you. So
yeah. Folks, I really hope you're really taking notes of this conversation. Jason just basically laid out like 4 years of education for you guys. Let me try to break this down a little bit. First and foremost, I really love the marketing piece. You say you have like people coming back, and we're going to come back to that marketing funnel, folks, here in a little bit, because we'll talk about that loyalty piece. But one of the things you mentioned what was really important was reaching out and actually building relationships with the developers, with your contractors, the folks that are actually fulfilling the items, right? That I think not enough entrepreneurs, when they start building, they don't actually reach out to the actual wholesalers and say, hey, this is my idea. This is what I want to do, because what actually happens is they want you to scale as well, right? They're willing to help you scale. And so what you started to do is you try to find your minimal viable product, right? Let's talk about how the importance of building those relationships were to find your minimal viable product. And then once you found that, how do you begin to find the product market fit? Because that was the next thing you're kind of getting into. So first, let's talk about your MVP. How did you kind of get to that? And then how did you roll it out to become your product?
Yeah, I think our mission was to create just a better product when it came to, I think we started with durability and innovation. I think those are the first thing. It was like, hey, like we've noticed that this doesn't, last long. And if you're going to go through 2 or 3 rounds, and then you have to buy another glove, we think our glove will last 2 times as long at least. You're saving every time you purchase a glove from us, you're saving, we would say $20, because you're basically every 2 leather gloves, you'd be buying 1 of our gloves. And we wanted to come out with that. But our mission was, hey, we're gonna try to innovate on something that hasn't been innovated on. Our vision was that people were gonna have this glove for a long time, and they're gonna be able to stand to like say like, I love this glove.
Yeah.
The positioning was very interesting. A lot of stuff we didn't know in the beginning. We just knew I think we had a great product. And I think as we started to talk through the 6 major details within the glove as we were building our website, we started to say like, wow, like there's not a lot of companies offering all of these in one package.
Yeah, good point.
You get the feel from a Cabretta leather glove, fine. But the second after you take it out of the packaging, you put it on your hand for the first time, that's it. It's never going to feel like that again. You can then go to the other side of the spectrum with other companies that make product that looks very, very, very futuristic and like made with faux leather, which is even less. If it gets wet, it's even worse. And I'm not going to mention the names. I don't, I'm not like talking bad about other brands, but they were on the other end of the spectrum and probably have a really great following when it comes to what they're good on. But their price points were higher. We started to go, oh, like futuristic works with if it gets wet, is light enough to give you feel, works with screens. We started to go, wow, like we have a lot of things built into one product. How are we going to start to tell people about that? Because as you know, on social media and everything these days, the attention span is much lower. If you don't catch someone in the first 2 seconds of like flipping through or scrolling through your video, you're not going to get them. And I've learned myself, I have a very hard time being on camera. I didn't mention that before we jumped onto this. But I had to start doing that. I have a couple of friends who are in this world. A guy named Jordan Rogers, who's kind of a ex-Nike guy as well, living in Texas, working with a lot of this material online and on social media. And I was just talking to him, talking to a couple of other people, and it was just like, you got to just try it and you got to do it. And that's when I started jumping on. I started jumping on to the camera and talking about what makes our gloves different. And then one of the agencies that we're currently using to help us out with our ads and our creative and stuff like that, is taking some of those initial videos that were just going to be me talking about. And I came up with, it was called FAQ Fridays. It was just, I started to kind of pull up a lot of the questions that I was getting. White gloves, can your gloves be washed? Why, what's this rubber thing on the inside? I started taking all these questions and going, wow, I think there's something here where I can start to tell people exactly what they're seeing instead of having the hoping that they see the little 6 box on our website, which is one scroll down, and then actually taking the time to read it. No one's going to be doing that. So how can I take those things, bring them to more of the forefront, try to get people's attention? And I think it's been okay. We're now using it as an ad, that same video, and I get a lot of comments and trolls every day, about your grip is wrong, that's why it's ripping there, and this and that, and it's always and you got to roll with it, and you got to kind of go with it, and you got to say, hey, like I'm educating people on our product. That's the goal of this. And I think we had to look at things from a different perspective as we got into talking about the product. So when you get to bring it back, when it was MVP, it was like, hey, we have a goal of what we want to accomplish with the product, and this is what we think we want to do for the future. And then like the positioning was, hey, it's going to be about details, it's going to be about benefits, it's going to be about the product. It's not going to be it's going to be about those things, not like, are we cool? Are we coming out with a new creative launch around apparel every season? That's not going to be what you're going to get with Clinch. We'll eventually hopefully do some of that down the road if we ever get to a place where we've grown to a bigger place and we really, that's my sweet spot. That's my bread and butter. I can do those kinds of things. But it was more along the lines of like, we're going to give people a great product. We're going to stand by that product. We're going to be really great and meaningful with our customer service. We're going to, when I say stand by our product, it's like we have a really, really great return and exchange policy. We try to say, hey, if you had an issue with your glove, we'll replace it. We'll get it back out to you, tomorrow, or even today. Sometimes if you catch me before the USPS guy gets here to the house. And I think it's one of those things where we just want to be very transparent. We want to bring people great product, and we want to stand by that product as long as we can. And I think as we start to get out to more people through emails, through social media, through word of mouth, I think, once we can start to grow, we get requests almost every day for, hey, we'd love to have you in our shop in XYZ city. Because I tried your glove, I believe in your glove. I talked to our club, our manager at my local shop, and we want to get. And it's like we would love to do that. We just can't currently do that when it comes to the two people. In order to really, really do that in the best way, that's why, hey, we were going to start center in Portland, and we're going to radiate out from there. And we're going to see that, if we can do that in the best possible way. But I think, to getting back to your original question, it's like, that was the MVP was, hey, we want to make a great product. That's the center. And then we're really going to stand by that product through all the other layers of the things that people are looking to us for.
And what I like about this is it's organically, you're also creating your brand. Right now, you're creating a trusted brand that has high quality, great customer service, right? That people can continue to come back. And then as you essentially now have this value proposition, right? So you're starting to build it up. And I got to tell you, folks, I have a lot of trolls as well. In fact, the content on this episode is so good. I had one individual on YouTube say, yikes. And I've been using that. I actually commented back on him. I was like, people are saying the content is so good, it will have you say yikes. Because I like to mess with the trolls just as much. Now, one of the things you also talk about is like marketing, right? Building out the brand. And you also talked about influencers. In fact, folks, go check out the shadesofE.com. Colin Landforce, a former guest on the show. I would love to see Clinch on there sometime. He does a lot of stuff. So if you ever check him out, he's really, really fun to watch. But talk about your guys' kind of marketing structure, your strategy. Talk about your sales funnel and how you kind of get people aware of your product, and then how do you become a loyal consumer?
Colin was an influence on me, honestly, along with another guy who goes by Golf Projects on Instagram, as well as I mentioned Jordan earlier. And Jordan and Colin were actually in that 7-Eleven photo shoot. They were two of the influencers that they had pulled in, along with this other guy. And I actually reached out to him. He lives like super close to me as well. And reached out to him, and we were just chit-chatting back and forth. And I love his whole thing around transparency of, if you want to make something, and his whole like, here's the factory and all that stuff at the beginning. But really,
the amount of information that guy gives, guys, you got to check out Colin. If you want like products or factories from across, he's a guy to follow.
So I reached out. I was like, hey man, like how do you like and I watched his transformation from when he first started to where he currently is now, and how comfortable he is, and how do you edit your videos, and what are you doing this? And I reached out, and again, like, that's where, generally speaking, it's hard to do that, I think, in the world. And you gotta have to have a little bit of humbleness, a little bit of humility to reach out and say, I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to this. I'm very personable when you get in person. I'm very, I think, hopefully that comes across through, in this, and can do everything when it comes to product creation, can do all of that, really love the fashion industry, love the golf industry, love all of these things. But I was having a hard time taking that, bringing that to the screen for the company, because very overnight, it wasn't just this really pretty picture of guys on a golf course or a product shot that was on our website. It was me standing there talking about the product and being the face of it, the way that some of these other guys were. And it was very, very daunting, I have to say. I can't even tell you the amount of times it took me to do one of these videos. And I started to, and then you start to think about like, I messed up like at second 30, and I had to go back because it was a 40-second video, and I had to stop. And I was like, and I can't even tell you how many times I like got so frustrated, and I was like, man, I can't get through a 30 or 45-second video talking about this product that I know very well, that we brought to life. And it was crazy. So then I learned about other, there's other ways to do that through editing apps like CapCut and things like that, where I started to then get a little bit more savvy on, okay, this is how I can piece together a lot of different things. They don't even have to be filmed at the exact same day or same time or any of those kinds of things. And I got some of those ideas from Colin. I was watching him as he transformed and as he was able to edit, and that was the thing. So we started to reach out, and you have to kind of be humble. You have to reach out and go, hey, I don't know how to do this. What are your thoughts on this? Him being in the golf area, him being in the informational, kind of influencer world. I was like, hey, I'm gonna reach out. I'll say what's up. I'll see if he had any interest in, any dialogue, and he did, and definitely took some of the things he said to heart and brought those to life. So I think when you talk about the funnel, I think we're looking at it, a ton of different ways. I think we do a lot of social media marketing, emails, with people like Klaviyo. We're working with that platform right now. And I think what we're doing is that's where we're starting to put, to put the money, the Google, the SEO,
Yeah.
the whole, and that's not really, again, the back end of that stuff, I lean a lot on my partner for that stuff. He deals directly with some of those things, but I think as we have our conversations, it's really trying to get more content out there, whether that be through static, whether that be through video, whether that be through, if you look at some of the stuff we did around the Seamus launch with that glove, that was just me and our another one of our really great partners that we work with, Harbor Golf and Harbor PDX, which they do a lot of video and editing and shooting and stuff here in Portland, and we've worked with them since day one. Like we had with Wildwood, they met him through a friend of a friend. He was one of the guys who tried out the glove in the beginning, loved it, and said, "Hey, like, we'd love to be a part of this." And so we use them for all of our shooting, and anything that's like a little bit needs to be a little bit more professionally done. Otherwise, I'm doing it. I've purchased, a little stand, the neck mount to do fun things.
Oh yeah,
there's like. So I'm trying, again, that's where, and I think we've talked to a lot of companies right now where they're like, hey, content is king. The more you have, you're going to have to open your aperture a little bit further when it comes to your spend. I think we focus differently when it comes to this time of year. We go south when it comes to the targeting, because everyone's out there daily, as opposed to us who now for a little while, unfortunately here, it's not going to be as frequent when it comes to getting out there. With the weather. So I think that's what we're really trying to do. I think we're trying to get better when it comes to our consistency on emails. Those are, yesterday we had one go out, and I hit my partner up. I was like, hey man, like, I didn't know that we had one going out. And yesterday was a 400% increase over the previous days. And I was like, wait, what, did something happen? Did one of our YouTube guy put out a new video? Like, it's very weird. And right now we're in just again, some realities of small business where we're almost completely sold out of large, period. The only large we have currently on our website is the Seamus glove, the collaboration, because we had a really great August, we had a really great September, and even into October, and we're waiting for, we didn't think we would be in this position, but we're waiting for this another big shipment we have coming in like a week. And I was like, we don't even have any larges. Why is there so much business yesterday? And I was like, and he was like, oh, we had an email go out, and we're now going to start to do that, twice a week, as opposed to like maybe once every month or once every quarter, or before we were going to do something big. And I think that's going to be one of the things that's going to unlock stuff for us, is making sure that we, again, take the time, create some content. And right now it's I equate it to, we're farmers selling enough crops to buy more seed. I say that to everybody. Like, we're not eating anything yet. We're not making, we're still a startup. Right. This isn't going to be our main gig. This is both of our side gigs, Matt and I think, but we really believe in it. We feel like in the next couple of years, if we can start to get more in, we'll be able to put more out, and then really start to gain more followers and more engaged, what was I going to say? Consumers of the glove. Then we can start making different gloves. We can start making more prints. Because I would love to do, I'd love to to connect with the guys over Portland Gear. Maybe we did something with them.
Oh yeah.
Here in Portland. Again, we really want, there's a lot. I mean, I said this the other day to somebody, I can't remember who it was, but there's so many amazing golf brands just here in the Portland area. And I was like, I don't know if there's every month during the summer, they have the Portland Flea. I don't know who the people are who put that on, but I would love to do one of those for golf brands, just to have a one weekend before the season starts in April, to have everybody come out to a little, area. And you've got really, really amazing companies here, and influencers, like we talked about, Colin and a couple other people, who have started some amazing golf brands and who are getting their products out there really well, just in this little Portland area. So I think that's why we were really excited to work with Seamus. We were, I've met some people at, companies like Jones recently, and played some really great rounds of golf, and people just really trying to get out there, try to do as much as you possibly can to get the name out there, show people your product. If they're not personally using it, at least they know that other people are, as you start to get that, you said that funnel out.
Yep.
I know that all those answers I gave you were more anecdotal, not like data related, because again, a lot of that stuff Matt does deal with, my partner on that side when it comes to like the analytics and the metrics. But I know that once we're going to have to start to spend more, talk to a lot of different agencies in order to really bring in more. And I think when we start to get to that point, I think we're going to try to do that a little bit more come next year before the season starts. We're going to try to get our inventory up to a really good place, maybe even an uncomfortable place. And then we're really going to try to make a go of it next year to see what kind of penetration we can get in the marketplace. So.
Well, I would say you're building it very accurately, right? Because you kind of want to be the zone of genius before you start to scale. Because once you scale, the operational costs is skyrocket, as you know. And going through that process, one of the things you mentioned, fail quickly. I always tell people I agree, right? And one thing I mentioned is, I've never failed a day in my life. I either learn or I succeed, right? Because essentially every time you fail at something, the reason we say fail quickly is because you're going to learn a lot. If you go check out some of my previous, go to theshadesofE.com, check out some of the previous episodes. They're not very good, folks. These ones that I'm doing now are so much better. And it's slowly, because again, repetition, getting out there, getting experience, as you mentioned, right? You're probably starting to feel that as well, coming on these, podcasts or interviews, starting to be a little bit easier. And then utilizing the content that you created on different verticals. Like you mentioned, creating a reel from a podcast episode like we'll create for this one. Go follow us on the Shades of E on Instagram and all the social sites, and you'll see the reels pop up, right? Subscribe to the newsletter. Like that's the beginning of my sales funnel. So the awareness piece is the social media, right? That's the top of my sales funnel. Hey, I want people to be aware of social media, all these other stuff. And then it's once people subscribe to the newsletter, okay, now they're at the evaluation stage. Now, my goal from there is now I want to get them down to a purchase. Hey, speaking of which, folks, go to theshadesofE.com/shop. You can find sweaters and swag to support the show. Then once you purchase an item, or even further, let's say you put an item inside of your shopping cart, but you didn't purchase it. Well, what I will do on my back end, hey, I noticed you left in your shopping cart, automated, here's a 10% off, go and you start to build out that relationship. And then once Jason mentioned, once you kind of have somebody that's purchased 10 items, like, hey, I noticed you purchased a lot of, I would love for you to write a testimonial on our website, or can you share it on social media? I'll give you another percentage off, right? Because that's when they turn from a purchaser to a loyal consumer. That's free
into an advocate. They turn into an advocate for your brand.
Exactly. And it's free marketing because they're marketing to their network, right? Their people that they know,
they're the ones saying, hey, I'm telling all my friends about you because and it's like, it's great. You're basically now a sales rep for me.
Yeah, and it's proof of service or a proof of concept, right? Proof of concept right there. Hey, this is a glove. I'm not telling you, this consumer's telling you, and they're saying how much you love it. And so I really like that concept. And then also breaking down the market segmentations to understand, like, okay, who's my vendor versus who's my business to business client, like you mentioned, like the Wildwoods of the world versus the individual ones. Because those communications on each of those market segments is going to be different, right? Yeah. Hey, I want to sell you 1,000 items over here, the business to business, or I want to sell you this new product over here, the individual business, the B2C, or hey, I actually have a new huge, shipment coming in. I need to design, and so you're working with your vendors that way. Now, well, Jason, one thing I would highly recommend, I'll send you this over to you later this afternoon. Collab. I'm not sure if you heard about it yet here in Portland, Collab, Oregon, and one of the guys from Baseballism, Travis, he was actually the one who set it up. So Collab, again, I know all these folks. So you're going to love this because the Collab, this is Burnside Knives, Baseballism, Steelhead, Portland Gear. They're all there. In fact, we created, check it out, folks. Again, theshadesofE.com. I love plugging my email on my website. But Burnside Knives and Steelhead, they actually came out with the Hyper Strike knife that they created a collaboration together. I connected the two at that collaboration. And so we were able to kind of put together this knife. I was very fortunate to be a part of it. Shout out to Rick for letting me a part, and Alex over in Steelhead. But that's a really good opportunity for you to also meet with a bunch of local small businesses here in the Portland area. But more importantly, one of the things they talk about is like cost of a customer acquisition. What deals are we doing on Black Friday? What are the best deals? And they have a Slack so it's like very network community. I'll connect you with them phenomenal. They're really good. In fact, I think John Loomis, he's the CFO, former guest on the show as well. He's also part of the Angel Sports Investors as well. So it's very small world. I love it. Now,
we actually met with the guys at Baseballism before we started, because our freight forwarder that we were working with suggested that we reach out to them, and we got one of the best pieces of advice from the beginning from one of those guys as well. And then again, all the people you're talking about, I've crossed paths with at some point, whether it be through my world at Nike or when we first started the conversations about this. So I love that it's a very small world, and I love that people are so accommodating when you reach out to them and they want to help. Because we're not competing with each other. This is a we'd love to see everyone succeed kind of vibe. So that's awesome.
That is one thing, you folks that may not be familiar with the Pacific Northwest in the small business world. The amount of support you receive in this community is astronomical. I run in the small nonprofit Latino founders. We raised, a little over $500,000 just last week. We did a pitch competition, Pitch Latino, here in Portland. We sold out OMSI 308 tickets, and we gave out $30,000 in grant funding. And so we're helping to scale. Our goal is to help scale 100 Latino businesses here in the Pacific Northwest to $1 million recurring revenue in 5 years. And we're doing this through pitch competition. We got accelerator programs, and the accelerator program, like the education is the one piece, but the where the rubber hits the road is the mentorship, right? Mm-hmm. Identifying someone within that vertical that can really support this entrepreneur and scale in their business. Like you mentioned, reaching out to Colin, reaching out to the Baseballs, and reaching out to all these different thought leaders within this area is so important, because they're willing to share their knowledge. And at the same time, they're also willing to kind of help you avoid the landmines of entrepreneurship, which there's a lot. There's a lot.
Yes,
Jason, you've been doing this. You're scaling your business. You've been in the corporate world, now in the small business world. What advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur?
I think I've dropped a couple of the nuggets that I would say just not to be afraid. I think just try. I think that's the thing, is like like we talked about, you're gonna suck in the beginning. You're gonna fail. There's gonna be some times where you're questioning what you're doing. I think one of the things that you talked about earlier, the MVP, thinking about some of that upfront work, looking at the market you want to get into, doing your research, trying to find out where you'll be different. You don't just want to be another carbon copy of somebody who's already doing something. Try to find that niche, however small, and be passionate about it. And really, 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 like you talked about, take advice, reach out. Don't be afraid to, like I said, appear you don't know something. And then just be a sponge. It was one of I can't believe I just said that, because that was one of the they used to call them maxims at Nike. It was one of the ones. It's like, just honestly, just absorb as much information as you possibly can. Reach out, take it. You may not use it, but really, really listen. And again, not be afraid to just try things and fail and try again. There's a ton of things that we've tried, and whether it be marketing or whether it be social media, or whether it be emails, whatever, that didn't work. And now you start to try to find the ones that do, and then you do more of those. Find your comfortable zone. I think, you're going to find everything's going to be hard. But like I said, with finding the ones that okay, now, hey, I know now that me sitting in front of the camera talking about the glove gets a lot of engagement. It may not be comfortable for me, but that's really what's going to help us in our brand and getting the message across. So let's do more of that. Test, repeat, and then find the place that's really going to go. I think, but again, just try to I could keep going and going and going, but I think the one thing is tough, but it's really just, you got to push through those uncomfortable moments, and really just keep trying. I think it's one of those things where it's just, sometimes you never know what the next day is gonna possibly bring that breakthrough.
Yeah.
So if you can, as long as possible, keep pushing and keep trying to find your lane. I think that's what I would just continue to tell anybody.
Love it. Folks, those one-hit wonders that you hear, they've probably been putting in work for 5 years before you heard that one hit song. So, again, fake it till you make it. I always encourage fake it till you make it. I don't mean to wing it, but I mean, like Jason said, go out and network and learn from other people. If there are thought leaders within the industry, there are conferences, there are workshops, there are trade shows that you can attend, and you can learn about this industry, whatever industry you want. There are all these professions. You can go out and learn it. You can follow an influencer on social media, like myself on theshadesofE.com, right? You can follow us and learn all sorts of information. But again, go out there, figure out who the thought leaders are, ask questions. There are no dumb questions. Nobody started at the finish line, right? And also the innovation that will be sparked through these questions. You might also find, you never know, you might find a business partner that's interested in your thought and like, you know what, I think you're onto something. Here's a few tweaks. Let's, keep it to scale. So Jason, I really appreciate this conversation. This is a phenomenal conversation. I really am excited to continue to see you guys. I'm going to go buy some gloves once you get those larges in. I'll make sure I get one for sure. Now, before we go, one of the things you talked about was networking. How can people connect with you? How can they find Clinch Golf? Where are you at in the social world?
Yeah, clinchgolf.com. That's our website. And then Clinch Golf on Instagram. I mean, also we're on TikTok. I know, kind of cringe a little bit there, but we basically take a lot of our videos and we put it over there as well. So we've got a good little following over there on TikTok as well. Facebook, Instagram, and those are the real places. If you live in the Portland area, you want to see the gloves in person. Again, I mentioned Wildwood. We're also at Envisions Golf, which is a sim in Tualatin.
Oh, yeah.
All the X Golf locations, Tualatin Country Club, a couple other country clubs come next spring. So, and then honestly, reach out on the website. The support at clinchgolf.com will get you me. And I will email you back. Sometimes we let people try the gloves out, meet up with them for coffee or whatever it might be. Again, really, we're a small operation, and we'll try to take care of you for sure.
I love it. In fact, I just recently released a sweater on my on the shadesofE.com/shop. Again, I love plugging that dang website. It actually says small business, big dreams, because I think that's exactly what entrepreneurship is, right? We're a small business with big dreams. And again, folks, you can check out, like Jason mentioned, Wildwood. I would also highly recommend checking out A Round of Golf, Tualatin Rec Center. They also have the virtual golf. So I was actually out there a couple of weeks ago with my wife and kid, the two kids, and playing some virtual golf. Shockingly enough, I'm just as bad as virtual as I am in real life. But you know what? It's all about having a good time. Jason, thank you again so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Again, as I mentioned, I will certainly purchase one of those once those large come in. I'm also going to send you some information about the collab, so we'll get some information over for you. Folks that are interested, please follow us on the social sites at the Shades of E. We're on Instagram, Facebook. We're also on TikTok, although their algorithm doesn't love me as much because I don't think I dance enough on my videos. But you can also check us out on LinkedIn, or you can subscribe to our newsletter by visiting theshadesofE.com. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you for tuning in to the Shades of Entrepreneurship. For more information, please follow the Shades of E on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or visit theshadesofE.com.